out. So, but yeah, definitely worth looking into. All right. And
just a question.
uh-huh.
Is there a number on the digital footprint? Because I think a lot of people did use that, and everyone did a great job on the distribution. Thank you, in the light of COVID, and they were at the farmer market.
That's right, Catherine. Thanks to Catherine. And speaking of the digital footprint, I asked Catherine that very question today. Catherine, would you like to address that? Unmute yourself first,
yep.
though.
Yeah,
there you go.
Sure. I've just been taking down the races that were won outright today in Vote 411, and in communication with Megan Brown, who is the LWV US coordinator for Vote 411. And she is working on the statistics for user use of Vote 411 for each of the entities that are part of that online voters guide. And what she can tell right now is overall, we were up 28% over 2018 in 2016 in terms of usage, which is fantastic. They projected only 20%. So that's, we outdid ourselves in terms of using it. One of the key things about that is that not only did that increase happen, but we had more races that were entered, more organizations and groups entered their races into the Vote for 411 platform. And what that meant is that not only did we have more users using it, but we also had more information for them when they logged in, which is very good. That's very, very exciting. So what she will also do is have more specific information for us as she works through this, and she'll be able to send that to us, and we can go over that at a later date. The key thing is that she's like all of us who were involved with Vote 411, we're taking down, we're archiving the candidates who lost, and we're archiving those races that are will be that we still archiving the ones that for which we don't have a runoff. And right now in Nueces County we have 3 races that are runoffs, and so those are still up and active as well. That we have gone in and marked in the races here who was the winner, so that when people we want to continue to encourage them to go back and look and see the results of the election via Vote 411, to see what how the propositions went in all of the ISDs, as well as the municipal bond elections and water district bonds. So that's all information that they can go back and see and check on still in Vote 411. So we need to, make sure we're still, guiding people to the Vote 411 platform and finding out that information. Very encouraging in terms of its use, though. I was very, very impressed.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you.
Great report. And Catherine, while you're here, how about telling us, reminding us, directing us back to 411, who are the people who have the runoffs?
Okay, the runoffs that are coming up they're all municipal. The 3 races, there's going to be a runoff for the Corpus Christi mayor. That will be between Mr. McComb and Ms. Guajardo. Then also for City Council District 4 between Greg Smith and Kaylin Paxson. And then also again for City Council District 1 between Rachel Ann Caballero and Billy Lerma.
Thank you. Maybe that will help some of our folks answer questions.
Also, that runoff is going to be on December the 15th. So you need to go ahead and get that on your calendars. It's going to be different for different counties throughout the state, but it just so happens in Nueces County, it's going to be on December the 15th.
I think they're going to have 1 week of early voting. I think it starts, it's like the 7th through the 11th, and then the election's on the 15th. Right.
Very good. Thanks, Deb.
Can I say something for voter services before we move on?
Sure. Please do.
When I've worked on voter services, I know sometimes you're calling the candidates and you're talking to them, and you actually get kind of a relationship with them. So if there is anyone of the losers that you would like to contact to encourage them to join us and thank them for running for office and helping democracy work, if you would do that, that'd be great. And I also plan to contact some of them. I've already contacted one, but she won. So I gave her an application a long time ago, but I'm kind of pushing it. So just if you all would do that, I would appreciate it.
Great. Good suggestions. All right. Moving along then, Paula, what else do you have for us? Shall we come back to you?
Do you need anything else from me? I think I'm done, but.
Okay, that's fine. You did such a wonderful welcoming voice for Sandra. I thought, oh, she's thinking we're going to come back to her. I misread that. All right, that's terrific. Thanks. Okay, Julie Rogers.
Yes, but before we go on, I really, really like to thank the voter services and everyone who distributed and did the forums, and also learned a new word I love, the flight director. Thank you, Anel, for making all those forums happen. But y'all did a great job, and
Thank you.
It was very well used in the community, I think.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with the calendar. Then we're going to move on to the Lead and Water Study Committee. As far as the calendar, what we have going on is on November 19th, we have Christine Bryant scheduled. She's from the Economic Development Corporation. Oh, and beyond that, she's an incredible woman leader. And so we're going to make sure we highlight that in the voter. She is the only certified consultant in South Texas, female consultant. So that's pretty cool. So she's on for November 19th. Then December 17th, it's near Christmas, as we all know, and who knows what'll be happening by then. But we also know, and I think Debbie might be speaking to that later, that the legislative session is going to be starting up in January. And of course, we probably all know that they've been getting ready for it anyway. And tied to that census, which is what is valuable about that information and how we promote that, is the Redistricting of Texas. And we did have some members say they wanted more information on that. So I got in contact with Stephanie Swanson from Fair Maps, and she's the League of Women Voters Texas Positions Chair on Redistricting Texas. And she's going to give us an update on the legislative session and what the league is doing in Texas. So that'll be in December and hopefully get us ready for January. Does that make sense? That was a lot. All right. Now, tied to that, and she needs our help with this. They have not done the Senate redistricting hearings because of the COVID. So most of you all know, because a lot of you participated in the Malk town hall hearings when the House side was doing hearings. They're going to go ahead along with Fair Maps and have town hall hearings. And that's going to be the week of November 16th. And so we have one scheduled for the South Texas region, the week of November 16th, with the Mexican American Legislative Caucus. And I don't type very fast, so I can't put this in the chat, but Elizabeth, I'm going to get you, these details, and we can also send it out to all the boards so you know, because she needs to know this, fairly soon. And she's seeking specifically community leaders and any other recommendations to participate possibly in this town hall. And so she would like our input on if we have any recommendations for that town hall. So let me know, and I'll say the sooner the better on that. Are there any questions about it?
Julie, I have a question. Are you talking about a Zoom meeting or an in-person for the November?
Thank you for asking. They're going to be Zoomed.
Okay.
And what they're also going to do is record it and turn it in to the legislative body. So it'll be preserved. And
I
they'll
would
have
just-
that on record. Normally that would have happened if they could have had the hearings.
I imagine it'll be like they did for the judges. That, yeah.
Probably. And I noticed when they had some other town hall meeting, I was just researching the calendar and what was going on. And a lot of our members participated in those as well. So she said what was really important was how redistricting would affect communities of interest. And so she was really seeking community leaders who would be impacted by redistricting if their community of interest was disrupted. Does that make sense to everyone? I think everyone's very well versed in the redistricting, so I don't want to like beat a dead horse on that one. But what questions do you have? And do you have any recommendations off the top of your head? I'll be glad to pass that on to her. But that's Stephanie Swanson, and some of you might know her also. She's the positions chair on redistricting for the League of Women Voters Texas, and she also does fair maps.
I remember listening to Chris Garcia when she did the redistricting presentation for the league, and Chris, I imagine you're ready to go on this again, or?
I'm not making any commitments, but the board put that statement together and allowed me to present that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was really good. And so, you know, maybe that's a good recommendation, right? Is that what you're suggesting, Peggy?
I mean, Chris was just she had it together. She's really good at this. Yeah.
I'm not making any commitments for December, but one of our members, Elisa Gonzalez, is really involved in that. Her son works for the Civil Rights Project in Austin, so we might always consider Elisa Gonzalez, and there may be some others.
Okay.
As well.
Are there any other recommendations today before we move on? Okay, great reports. Lots of energy and enthusiasm there.
Okay, so we've got some more to cover.
Yes.
That was the calendar which ends us for December. And thank you so much, everyone, helping to fill in November and December or October. Thanks, Debbie. I think you help a lot. Then what it leads us to is I've been working with the Lead and Water Study Committee, and that's been amazing. The work they've done is spectacular. And what we're going to do is take that study and move it to action. And we're learning how to use consensus process. So that's been really good too. We've had Janet Imhoff help us. And today you should have received the fax. They emailed it on the 31st. So they submitted their final reports, and that's what I want to talk to you about, and it ties into the calendar. So in December, we have Stephanie Swanson, but starting in January, we're going to move this study to action, depending on what the membership wants. And so January 21st is our first scheduled membership meeting, and the Lead and Water, the study committee would present their facts and issues, which is the final report. Now, I've been in communication with the Corpus Christi Water Utilities Department, and the study committee has also noted this in their report. We've had quite a bit of improvement since they started their study, and that also being changes in the Water Utilities Department. So they need to do an update for us, and they've agreed to present on February the 18th. So we want to make sure to hear from them when we're making decisions about our positions on our water, our presentation of facts, and that's certainly what the committee has done, but we need to hear from the city since we're talking about them. So they're going to present in February, and then that would also give us information for March 18th for an informed membership to be able to have a consensus questions, and we can reach our position on where we stand on potential lead contamination in our city water. Does all that make sense so far? All right, wonderful. Before I turn it over to the committee, I want to make sure we also know that the process has started. So where we're involved with the board, and what I'll make sure that we do this, is that we have to have board approval on the process for reaching member agreement. Should it be consensus or concurrence? The committee can recommend what type of process they think should be used, and they've already recommended that consensus should be used. And consensus, just a reminder, is an agreement among a substantial number of members that's reached after sustained study and group discussion. And so the League of Women versus Texas also says that the study item is complex, which this certainly is. And it's complex enough that there has not been a position reached on anything about lead in water in the state of Texas. There are other states that have reached positions, but not the state league here. If we reach a position on it, it is feasible that we move it to the state. And that would be done later in the fall. And I'll inform you process, but I think that's really exciting to know that corporates. I do recommend using the consensus process, and I think it would be good today to go ahead and vote that we would use the consensus process to move this. Is there any discussion?
Julie, could you go over for some of us what the difference is and how that is done? I think, just to make it clear.
Yes, and if anyone wants to add in, please do. I appreciate all the mentoring I'm getting. And the one thing that's beautiful about our consensus process is it's quite unique, but complex, so that it covers all the bases. So consensus is the members come together, grassroots membership. They get the final report from a study committee. Grassroots membership comes together and they have consensus questions they discuss, and they reach a position on it. There's no voting. It's designed so that people can discuss more, and that there are more different views. The concurrence is a straight up, the position statement is written ahead of time, and then you present that to the membership and they vote on the position statement. That Janet said that has been being used more often lately, and there is a hybrid that is consensus concurrence.
Oh.
As a new vice president to programs, and hopefully we can also recruit new members, I think learning a consensus process would be very good for the league and certainly for myself. Does that cover what we need to know, or anybody else want to add to that?
Perhaps. One of the advantages that we learned from the briefing that League of Women Voters Texas gave us is that those consensus questions can be used in the educational process. In fact, that's the function of the consensus questions. We don't exactly approve the consensus questions in advance. We use the consensus questions to provoke questions, comments, and in the draft or the PDF that I provided you on October the 31st, we even have some true false questions. At any rate, the consensus questions do not infer that that a consensus has been reached. The questions are just part of the consensus process to help educate us. Does that help some?
The last time we did a consensus was on the National Study on Immigration in 2007. And I would only know it's time consuming. And I'm hoping we might be in person by the spring, if that's going to happen in the spring, because it would be a really difficult thing to conduct on Zoom. So that's from my personal experience.
That brings, I don't want to preempt Julie's report, but I'm going to touch on that issue because that was one of the earliest misgivings or concerns that I had when we went into the COVID cycle, and it was suggested that we conclude or follow up with study education by Zoom. But I would like to comment on that when Julie's through.
Okay, so where I'm at right now on this is making sure, and it's a lot for me, it's for me to know too, that what we must as a board approve in the process, and it is that we have to approve a process, and I'm recommending consensus. I would assume that means we need to vote on it. So is there a motion today to use consensus?
Julie, is the choice consensus or concurrence? So we're going to vote on both of them?
We could. I'm recommending just straight up to use consensus and not the concurrence. I know it's complex. I feel like to grow our skills and membership, the consensus would be the best process. So that's just my recommendation. Whoever wants to make a motion, you would do that in your own words, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe that should be your motion, Julie.
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we use the consensus process for the lead and water study and the potential for lead contamination in our drinking water.
A second? There should be a second. We should have some support so we can move forward on this.
Yes. Is there a second?
I'm not a board member.
I'll second it.
Who said
I'll
that?
second.
Who said I'll do it?
Sylvia.
Oh, Sylvia. Thank you. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we move forward with the consensus project. And is there any further discussion? Those in favor, aye, or raise your hand. Let's do that part. Raising hands if you're in favor of moving forward with the consensus project. So how many hands do you count, Anel?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
All right. And
Unless
those,
if you mean to have your hand up, put it up close to your face, because some of you I don't have the whole picture.
hands,
Okay.
hands are within
1, 2,
front.
3, 4, 5,
So she does need to see them.
7, 8. Well, 7 board members. So yeah. Did you get that?
Those
7?
opposed, same sign.
Everybody take your hand down. That was, and now.
So there are
Opposed.
no hands then saying nay? None opposed. Terrific. So
Okay.
it's been passed, the board has passed by vote to go ahead with this.
Okay. So the board going forward, the other things we'll be approving, and I'll be making sure we approve, is that we do have to approve the questions for discussion and consensus by the membership, according to the program perspectives and the Texas League.
So we don't need to vote on that right now. It's just part of the
No,
process.
what has to happen with that is you've received the questions and the facts and issues. You need to look at the facts and issues in order to be able to approve the questions, I believe.
Okay.
And this will go out in notes. I recommend approving them by the January board meeting. The other thing we have to approve in the future or not approve is rather the other thing that approve document of facts and issues.
All right.
You've received that. I've been through the draft process with it, and so has Ann. She's gotten every communication. And I would recommend that we do approve by the next board meeting or before, even today, so we could go forward. But I know you all just received the facts and issues. So that's what we have to make sure we're involved in that as far as the process goes. For study committee, they're responsible for, and they've done well with this, the facts and issues, the final report. It just needs the president has the authority, so you need to give them the go ahead. And they developed the consensus questions for discussion, and they've done that. And they also, though, can plan and organize workshops, discussion meetings, panel presentations, public forums, or any other means of informing and educating the members, and if possible, the community at large, on the issue under study. And they would do that from December 2020 to March 2021. And they should also provide periodic voter articles on the topic to keep membership informed. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, with that, I'd like to turn it over to the chair of the study committee. Thank you all for doing the study. I've been enjoying learning from it. Not enjoying, but I love to learn.
We're grateful you're involved for sure. Okay, Sally, you're on.
Thank you. Before I begin, allow me to introduce someone who's joined us today. He's not really a member of the league, he's not a member of the committee, but he is a part of the committee because he's our technical advisor. His name is Ron Schiller, and you'll see him right underneath Anel over there. Hello, Ron. Ron is a retired Air Force bioenvironmental engineer. He was with the Air Force 30 or 31 years, and he has a degree in chemical engineering. As I said again, he's our technical advisor, and we're very grateful to him. Ron is going to help us solve one of the challenges that we face during COVID-19 in trying to get out the consensus questions, the education, not necessarily the publicity, but our interaction with the board and with the membership and with anyone else from the community who wants to join us, because apparently consensus, according to the League of Women Voters, the education that goes with consensus is open to more than just the membership. So Ron has graciously agreed to master Zoom meetings. In fact, we've had one among ourselves over the weekend, but Ron has agreed to host what we would call mini workshops for people who want to join us and to learn from the facts and issues, to view one of his PowerPoints that he's put together. We call it Blue Bubbles. As that's going to be, from the committee's point of view, that's going to be the core of our outreach, and that's what we'll have to contribute in addition to whatever the board and whatever your media arms come up with. Again, we sent you the facts and issues and the consensus questions on October the 31st. Now, one off-committee member, Dr. Jose Miguel Duran, thank you very much, Peggy Duran, for that contact. He reviewed our facts and issues, and he made a single suggestion to adjust a sentence pertaining to bioaccumulation of lead. And with notice to the committee, the adjustment was approved and will appear in a new PDF copy to the board, the leadership, and the membership. So we ask you, do not disseminate the current PDF to membership until we've adjusted that one item. It's just perfunctory. The workshops that we talked about, the many workshops that Ron will host for us, we'll try to do as many as possible, and we'll make the workshops available according to demand or request. And we'll probably need some help from membership in sending out email blasts about the availability of those workshops and what might be convenient times for them. We'll even do them by request, as I said. If there's a group or even one or two people who want to get together, we'll do it. I think I told you that a draft PowerPoint has already been prepared by Ron, and it's been shared with the committee. Subject, like any PowerPoint that's used for education, to updating and adjustment depending on the composition of the audience. So we're thinking that there are probably going to be different types of folks. Maybe ACOG. I think that Judy Telch had a wonderful idea about contacting ACOG to see if any of their representatives or their staff might be interested. Now, in the meantime, Linda, on myself, had a Zoom meeting. It was to bring Linda back up to speed after having summered back in a cool climate. She's back with us. Bring her up to speed on the wonderful job that Julie's been doing as our program vice president and ramrodding this thing through and doing liaison with the League of Women Voters Texas. In bringing Linda up to speed, we discovered that she is interested in doing some follow-up open records request with Texas Department of State Health Services. And this particular follow-up has to do with investigation reports that the state is supposed to do, I say supposed to do by private contractor, with lead-poisoned children. If I were someone from the outside and I looked at our study, or I attended one of our meetings, one of the questions I would ask, well, is what is, you have done an analysis of water, and we know what EPA says about the contribution of water to lead intake. But what's causing the lead poisoning in our children in Nueces County? If we can get at that information and that they have actually done those investigation follow-ups, we might be able to get some of that information. We won't know until we try to get at those reports, and Linda has agreed to take on that chore. And in doing so, Ron, in helping Linda, has sort of greased the skids with the epidemiologist at Texas Department of State Health Services. He's done a preliminary inquiry of the epidemiologist to find out exactly what would be the best route for Linda to take in making that inquiry. You can always go through the standard channels, but sometimes they send you on wild goose chases. So Ron is going to see if he can't get some guidance from the epidemiologist to save Linda some shoe leather. Really thank her for deciding that that's something that she wants to pursue. That information, as I said, is not part of our study or our presentation at this time, but it's something that we can address perhaps if that inevitable question is going to come up from the people who come to some of these workshops. And with that, I think that's probably concludes what I have to say, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Sally, just one question. From previous service that I had on the state board, once consensus is reached on those consensus questions by the league, that gives the league a chance to write a position statement, which then allows us to speak on that topic in perpetuity whenever the topic comes up. But it doesn't there doesn't need to be a committee still on the board doing stuff on that topic. Am I correct? That once the consensus is reached,
I would agree with your statement, Chris. The reason that some on the committee continue to be enthused about getting additional information is that both Janet Imhoff and Julie observed early on, we have touched on some issues that are actually threshold and springboards to more follow-up. If the local league decides that it wants to commission that follow-up in the future. Now, that really doesn't keep anyone from going on and doing it. Of course, if they did it as individuals, they would not be able to say, I'm making this inquiry on behalf of the League of Women Voters Corpus Christi. But if the inquiry that Linda's going to pursue bears fruit and she comes back to you and says, wow, I really got some interesting information here. I would like for the board to authorize me to, in the name of the board or in the name of the local league, to pursue this and see what we can develop out of it. And then as the information develops, the board might say, well, it looks like we have potential here, perhaps for another study.
I think your goal, though, is to hope that the state board in 2022 might do a statewide study. Is that what your final goal might be? That the interest at the state level were led? It seems to me that once a consensus is reached and once a statement is written that gives us permission to speak, that the action, there's no need to have,
of course, will be local.
Can I add something?
I'm missing. I think I missed some of what Chris said. There was a skip there.
Once studies are done and consensus is held and a statement position is crafted, is there any other reason why the board and the league stay involved? I mean, we study an issue to be informed, but not necessarily to make it part of our mission to do additional work in that field. And I'm looking at the state board as my background. You know, we've had a couple of studies locally, but I'm just trying to figure out, does this go on in perpetuity? Or is there a chance that we get a position statement?
Well, I think that once our position statement is made, we cannot change that position statement.
No, I understand that. That only gives us permission to speak on the topic.
That's cast in stone. So for all practical purposes, the issues that were presented that led to that position statement are concluded.
Right.
And if in the future the board decides that Linda's research has presented enough substantial or meaningful information that you want to use that to authorize another follow-up study, then that would be, I see that as a separate and independent operation or movement by the local board. What the state board will do with this, with our local position statement, I don't know at this time. Julie might have a better idea of what the state league's vision for that opportunity might be. Julie, could you comment on that?
Well, in our discussions, what we talked about, Janet had mentioned that there's no position, and she sent us the league positions on water. There's not a position on lead and water for the state of Texas. If we were to come out of this with a position statement, the board, this has to go through our local board. It doesn't automatically go to the state.
Right.
The local board, we can decide whether or not we want to send it to the state for consensus. And it happens that because it's the fall of an odd number year, and that's when they're doing the program planning for the state and national conventions in the spring of the even year, they would want us to have something by the fall if we wanted to submit it.
Right. I understand.
Okay. But I feel like that's what you're asking, but I don't know if everyone else knew that. I certainly didn't. And no decision has been made on that because it's something that we would have to decide as a board. As far as doing further study, that also my understanding, and this is why I think this process is so good for us. Please correct me or add to it if anyone would like, is that the program planning meeting early in the calendar year is the time to add any more studies or any other study committee on another topic, which would also be good for us because we're learning how to do this process, and this has given us a chance to do it. But that again is in the future and something for the board to decide.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I add something? Anne, can I add something?
Yeah, surely.
Okay, so my take on this in response to what Chris said, but also just in general. And I am on the committee, I'm not a board member, but my opinion is that the more information that we on the committee have turned up, the more disturbing it is locally. In other words, whether the state, whether our Texas chapter makes this a statewide option or not, or focus or not, there's still a lot of reason why I think there needs to be continuing follow-up, because we don't get any information from our local health department. If we're having to get it from the state, and then we don't know how it's actually being followed up on. We don't know what they're doing. But I can tell you this, that if I was my child is 30, so, he lives in Vermont. So if I had a grandchild, if I had a child, and I do live in 78415, which happens to be the zip code of the, quote, worst area in Corpus, you'd better believe that I would find it very important to stay involved nuclear interest and let the editor, this is not to try to make any try to we're just get some information, and whoever's still interested in it could be possibly a liaison, someone that could actually make their lawyer from just a citizen point of representing the league, or how far the league wants to go with this. But I, as a league member, would be extremely proud of anything that we did to improve our community, and anything that we did to raise attention and awareness to the city and the community. Again, I can picture if I had a child, if I was nursing a child, if I was pregnant, if I had a grandchild or a child in school, I can picture a PTA or PTO, whatever they're called here, PTA, I think. I can picture them being interested, especially of the elementary age kids, because we're talking about neurological damage, brain damage. We're talking about a lot of reasons why everyone should be concerned. And I'm not in any way trying to chastise anybody here. I don't read this as lack of interest. But what I'm saying is, I understand that everybody's busy and they may not have time to focus on this particular issue. But I think that the support of this issue is definitely something our committee needs. And when it comes down to it, the many workshops, or, like I say, the more you find out about it, the more I think you might get a little bit up in arms, because it's not been brought up a lot. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of stuff in the paper or you know, in a lot of, they have some improvements, but, you know, we're not the worst, but we're certainly not the best. And I'd like our community to be, you know, we'll call it the spark plug, for lack of a better term, that could get people more interested in it. So end of my lecture, end of my speech. But that's how I feel about it.
Thank you. Okay, Julie, are you thinking we need any further action from the board today, or will we just continue the work as you see fit to do? And Sally, you could answer some of that as well.
I think we're on the right path, and we've done what we needed to have happen today. Everyone needs to read the facts and issues, and if you have any questions about them, Sally's been very accessible, as well as the rest of the committee.
Okay, well, let me thank Ron particularly for being here and in on this meeting, and Sally for all of her work, and the entire committee for just going forward. So much progress has been made. Sally could tell you that she found we had done twice as much work and had twice as much material as anyone would reasonably be able to entertain at the state level. And so immediately the committee worked and stripped it down to what the state people could work with and support. And they're diligent, Julie and Sally and Ron have forward. So it's a very exciting thing, and we're really seeing movement on this. So I think we need to be very proud of these people for doing that. And yes, absolutely. So do we have anyone who wanted more information today? We're past 5 o'clock, and we still have some bases to cover. So are we all right with everyone to not take any further action? Just let the committee continue their work? Or do we have something that needs to be addressed? Peggy, what do you think?
I'm looking forward to seeing the questions that we're going to be presenting, because like you say, that's the important part now, is going to be educating the community. And so those questions, you know, yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing.
Question. I sent out both facts and issues and consensus questions.
Okay.
The board and leadership. Did you not get the consensus questions, Peggy?
I'll check my email again, Sally. I got the facts and issues because we went through all of that, but I don't remember seeing the questions. So I'll look in my email again.
Anyone who did not get the questions, please let me know. The questions are a lot of fun. In fact, we finally had a big breakthrough. Finally, we're not dealing in micrograms and milligrams of blood levels. We're really getting into some fun stuff. And that was kind of a breakthrough for me. And I hope that you enjoy the consensus questions. And in fact, you don't even really have to look at the facts and issues to look at the consensus questions first. Now, of course, in order to do the consensus questions right, we had to be really meticulous. But if you want to take a shortcut, you want to just kind of enjoy yourself a little bit, and they're short. I think what, just maybe 2 to 4 pages of consensus questions, might even be less than that. But take a look at them first if the spirit moves you.
Okay.
And let me know if you don't have them.
One other thing.
Oh, go ahead.
The PowerPoint, if anyone sees that in the many workshops we're talking about, that really clarifies a great deal. So that can really, I would say, give you the Reader's Digest, if you want to call it that.
Linda, tell people how to get to it, just because they might have missed part of the directions there.
I thought we were going to do that in a mini workshop. I'm not sure.
Oh, right. I thought you wanted to give.
Well, Sally, what do you think? I mean, is it, I don't know if it's ready for distributing or not. That's up to Sally and Ron.
All right. Sally?
If you would like to see the PowerPoint, I'll be happy to send it to you.
I think that would be really helpful. Could you send it to the whole board? And
yeah, I'll send it to the whole board with the caveat that PowerPoints are always subject to adjustment. if Ron will agree with me.
And don't distribute it. Don't distribute it to anyone. Don't send it anywhere else.
At this point in time, it's a work in progress, and I think we have it labeled draft.
Okay, so what a great discussion, what great information coming forward. You all are to be commended highly. This has been going on for a long time, and we're really making some breakthroughs and making new connections. So do you have anything else you need to cover before we go on to the next topic?
No, thank you all very much.
Okay, that's great. Thank you again. Now, Linda noble, Debbie Noble. We don't have a Linda Nobles that I know of.
Yeah, no, that would be Debbie Noble. All right. I spent a lot of time and energy working with Nat and Catherine and Chris and Sandra, just getting as much election information, good election information as we could out on our Facebook page and we have a Twitter account, which I mostly just share other people's stuff. And we started an Instagram and put things on there and our website. And I had my daughter, Sophie, designed a ton of posts for us that came out really cool. And we just posted all those. I tried to share everything from the county clerk's office too, so that we had all of their information out there. Just as an example, most of our posts don't have huge amounts of engagement, but they have within the county clerk's offices. And one of the last ones that we did had a reach of over 7,000. And that was the one where I just put all of the information, like it's election day, here's what you need to know, here's what you need to take, here's what you need to have with you. And that reached over 7,000 people. But anyway, that's all I did, live, breathe, and sleep that for the last month. So I'm ready to have all the votes counted and be done with this pretty soon. Although now we have a runoff, so we still have to do that. We have that going for us. So those guys, you all did an amazing job with the forums and the guide. Those things are just invaluable resources to everybody in town. People were all over Facebook and social media asking for it. Where are they? When is it coming out? And the candidates, I ran into a couple of candidates just the other day who were thanking us for doing the forums and what a great job they were and how happy they were to be included in them all. So everybody who had anything to do with that, y'all, especially during the pandemic, just amazing work. So, and I know a couple of us have been talking about what we can do going forward. And of course, we want to review all the things that we did with voter education and registration and election information and forums and the guides and everything that we had to change because of the pandemic climate, and see what we learned and what worked and what didn't work and what we can do better and what we can do the same going on into the future. One of the things that I have just decided that I really want to work on and look into is just misinformation, how people consume information. I think that's part of our job as providing voter education, is providing education for people really on how to consume information, because there's so much disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda. And I spend a lot of time on Facebook because of all my various volunteer jobs, and that's frightening. I spend a lot of time on Twitter also, which is less frightening. So sometimes I just have to switch so I can find out. You find all the things that are debunked and getting even more coverage. So I think education into how to consume media is going to be one of my things going forward into the future that I'm going to really focus on. Also, the state legislative session is coming up next year, and I think that we really want to show that we work closely with the state to find out what their priorities are as far as election systems and voter registration and voting, to make sure that we work with them to promote, with our representatives here. All three of them were reelected. And the things that I wanted to work, a whole list of things. I also want to work with our, things that we do better locally, but most of it is state related. And they are things like online voter registration for everybody in Texas. If we can't have that, at least make the DPS website work. I know there was a law that had to be fixed in September. Not sure that they actually did that. I know both of my kids worked as poll workers, and lots of people came in and were thought they were registered and weren't, because they thought they did it. The DPS things like, oh, I did it online, which no, you didn't, because we can't. But anyway, so I really want to have online voter registration. Of course, we would love to have same-day registration like they have in 23 other states. That's probably not going to happen, but hey, a girl can dream. Application for voting by mail, the design of that form is terrible. I talked to the state about it. They know that it takes up a ton of time and energy and money in the clerk's office trying to process those applications, trying to get the Secretary of State's office to redo those forms so that they are not so time consuming and easy to get kicked out. An online system for people to track their application and ballot status. I was told by the county clerk's office that we couldn't possibly do that. It wasn't authorized, but then several of the larger counties did in fact do it. So there is a way to do it. And I think that that's something we need to make sure that we have it locally for next year. There were some over 15,000 mail-in ballots were returned this year. I don't know how many were applied for specifically. I don't know how many were not returned or rejected or lost or whatever. But I do know that if you look at the results, over 15,000 of them were in fact turned in and counted. And those need to have not call the county clerk's office to say, hey, did you get my application? Hey, did you get my ballot? Hey, where is it? You should be online and find that out. The voter ID system obviously is very onerous. There's like the 7 forms that they take. And then if you don't have one of those, you have to fill out another form, which has a name. It's called a reasonable impediment form, which for people that don't have one of those forms of ID, they don't even understand the words, what that means. So what it is they have to fill out in order to show something else. So that whole system needs to be better. Ballot by mail, people need time to contest it if it gets thrown out. Now, I assume the numbers in this county are probably pretty low, but still, I mean, every vote should count. Those people should have a way to contest their ballot in a timely manner, not 10 days after the election, which is what we have now. There was a lawsuit to that effect, but it was in effect, and then it was stayed, and then it was thrown out. But the fact of the matter, counties, just because they're not required to do it doesn't mean they shouldn't do it anyway. Curbside would probably work better. There's a bottleneck, but there's one phone number that you call at the county when the county's swamped. Like, you may get through and you may not. It may take a while. I know Harris County did stuff like 24-hour places for early voting, and they did stuff like the drive-through voting, and those are things that we can look into. Of course, my big pipe dream is ranked choice voting. You all know I'm very into instant runoff or ranked choice voting, which I think would solve a lot of our problems nationwide. Maine does it, and it was on the ballot in a lot of other states this year too, and that's something that I'm interested in. And also the way our county is organized, as far as we have a county clerk and we have the tax assessor's office, and a lot of counties, even in Texas, are going towards having an appointed or hired election official to run the election, which makes sense because you shouldn't elect the person who's running the election. That just seems wrong. All right, so those are all the things that I think we should be working on. Does anybody have any questions? I'm looking at just working with our local county, the county clerk, and those two are two different things. The county clerk's office doesn't necessarily work that well with the county itself, as I figured out, and the tax assessor's office, and the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. All of those entities need to work well together to hire poll workers and elections. And I think that's one of those things that maybe we could work with them to help them work better together, or see what we can do for them to help them all work better together. So
Great.
That's what I have to say, and those are my priorities for the next year.
Fabulous. Keep us on track working on them month by month. We have about 6 months to go, you know. So whatever we're going to accomplish, we need to get on the board and get going on. So hold our feet to the fire, Debbie. I know you will. And thank you so much for all you've done to make things work up to this point.
Have any questions about
Wonderful.
any of those things?
Yeah,
Debbie, or Peggy.
there were 15,000 mail-in ballots in Nueces County that were rejected.
There were probably more than that were either applied for or sent out. But if you look at the results, there were over 15,000 turned in the results, which is about twice as much as we usually do.
Okay.
I think it's been like 6,000 to 8,000 in the past.
I'd like to make a comment. Of all that great list, they're all worth striving for and working toward, but I would put online voter registration at the very top. I mean, if we're going to use energy, let's use energy for that.
Oh no, I absolutely agree. That is, I mean, and that's something that you know they can do. It's done all over the country. There's no reason. Even Todd Hunter, I was talking to him the other day, and he was like, we should have that. Even Kevin Kishnick, who's the elected Republican tax assessor, is like, we absolutely should have that. Everybody that I know thinks that we should have that.
One of the things that Heather Cox Richardson, who, for those of you who don't know, is a historian of note, she has pointed out, and I don't know if it's with online registration or just like any kind of election thing, somebody needs to keep her with stuff. They could, like, she could be Heather C. Richardson, and then if they go in and just change it to Heather D. Richardson, and then all of a sudden her ID doesn't match, you know, what's in there. So those kinds of things need to be.
Oh, you are absolutely right. People worry about the ballots, that somebody tampering with the ballot totals, and that's actually really hard to do. But what is to do, and what people were, what they talked about in the last election cycle, is that foreign entities did make cyber entries into different things, and the things that they attacked are voter registration, because all you have to do is change somebody's address, change somebody's party,
just one thing, just one character,
and that means that you can't vote. And
right.
So that all works with suppressing the vote and stopping people from voting. That is far more likely than them ever messing with the actual vote totals.
So just a quick add-on to what Debbie's saying and things to look for in the future. When you look at the Nueces County but almost it, and that's fantastic. So what Chris and I want to follow up on is to request our membership. You know, I did a get out the vote plea, suggesting on an individual basis what can the individual members do to encourage people to vote. We'd like to do a follow-up on that to solicit, you know, what they did to try to engage the other 119 members who aren't sitting here on this meeting, you know, to be actively involved in the league. And so that I think Chris probably has that on her schedule of when that request goes out to the membership. But just to know that, get some feedback from them to see, you know, what can we do? There's the leagues, you know, around the nation have done some really interesting things in terms of get out the vote for this election. And so looking at those things and seeing, you know, how we can come up with our own or incorporate some of these that have been successful.
One of the things that I'm fascinated to find out, what you just said was great, but also I want to know why people didn't vote. I mean, that's still 40% of the people who didn't vote.
Right. No, exactly. Exactly.
I'm always curious. And so I think I'm going to do some of that on social media, and some of the groups that I belong to would be asking people, if you did not vote, why didn't you? Now, I know that my younger daughter was a poll judge at TAMU-CC, and that she had a lot of students come in who came in to vote and were either not registered or registered in the wrong county and didn't realize. Another one of those things, if you wait till election day, you can't fix that. If you're trying to like adjust things or drive somewhere or whatever, but they had to turn away, and it's probably the nature of the university. They had to turn away people.
Okay, we have less than 10 minutes now to finish our agenda. So I'd like to shift. I mean, we all know where to find Debbie Noble, and if you just send her any of the ideas or the thoughts that come to you after this meeting, please send them right on so she can keep this. She has a train moving. We won't call it a Trump train or another kind of train, but just a train. She has a train working here, and the motors are revved up, and she's going down the track. So please feel free and energized to work with her and share some of your ideas. Thanks again. Okay, Chris, you're on.
Just two things. One is we're working on the November voter, and we still have a pretty traditional newsletter from, you know, anywhere from 8 to 12 pages, but it takes a lot of writing and a lot of editing. So I'm really encouraging you to let me know what kind of stories need to be there. We'll do some review. Some reports today are excellent and could also be included. But I need anything from you by Sunday afternoon, if I could. That's November the 8th, and that would be most helpful. We do have the meeting on the 17th, and so is it the 17th? Yes. So we want to make sure we get the voter out for that. So send me stuff. And then the only other, really, Sylvia's online too. We were tasked this summer with looking at job descriptions for the board. We've always had some job descriptions, but they need to be tweaked. They need to be upgraded. Sometimes there are job descriptions that are in one person's portfolio that really belong to someone else. And so it's really time. We haven't had any time. I haven't had any time. Sylvia's been standing by. But we've got we've got the job descriptions on paper of what we developed in 2016. Catherine got a bee in her bonnet this summer, and she got busy looking at how we might organize those with bullets instead, you know, so Sylvia and I are ready to move forward. Sylvia has been ready to move forward, I think, Sylvia, but thank you for your interest. But it will take all board members to look at their specific parts, whether they're a chairperson, to kind of see, you know, you see something on your portfolio that says, I've not ever done that. I didn't know I was supposed to. So now's the time to kind of get that ready for Peggy to have by the end of January or so. Peggy, as you start soliciting replacements for vacancies and that sort of thing. So we're very timely now, looking at maybe the next 6 or 8 weeks, getting all of this done. Most of it will be individually with each one of you. So kind of be standing by on that, but we have nothing written for diversity and unity, for instance. We have nothing written for governance or advocacy, whether or not we ever have a chair in those positions, but we could. So we ought to look forward and add some things. There might even ought to be a chairperson for fundraising in general. Maybe we need to write some job descriptions for that. So it's a working document. It's always in process and in progress. But anyway, be looking for that in the next week or two. Sylvia and I need to get together, and Sylvia, hopefully we can do that over a cup of coffee in person and take a look at some of these together and then get that done. But it really needs to be done. The second part will be board policies. They are the standing rules of our bylaws. And we've got a great document, Sandra Heatherly and Coretta Graham, several people put a lot of effort into that in 2015 or so. And that needs to be upgraded too. And we need to look at that for inconsistencies. I believe those are important documents for the board to always be aware of, and it helps us do our work. So that needs to be a separate thing apart from board descriptions, board officer descriptions. So President Ann, I'll visit with you. We really need someone to take board policy, do the same thing. It's about a 5-page document, having the board really read it carefully. It can't be discussed in a Zoom, but ideas can come through a lesser visible channel so that things could be tweaked and then President Ann, that's my report.
Can I say something?
Catherine, all additional remarks. Catherine, do you just want to add, use your other information now?
That's all right. Covered in terms of all that's going on right. Include 411, get out the vote, asking for responses from the membership to see if they were able to do some of those efforts. So I think it's pretty well covered, Ann. Thank you.
Judy Telge, are you still with us?
Maybe not. Okay, well, that brings us to adjournment, I believe. Is there anything else that really needs to come up today before we close down? Anything we missed?
Nell's got something.
Yeah.
Pardon?
I've got just one thing going back
Oh,
to what
good.
Chris was talking about job descriptions and bringing all of that up to date. And y'all may already be doing this because this is my first time to hold a board position, but Brenda Hanby handed me a notebook with step-by-step instructions for each little bit of structure within my job, a how-to manual. And so if you guys aren't already doing that, yeah, you should probably do that because it really, Brenda had a lot going on when she left the position. So it was just really helpful for me to have all of those step-by-step instructions. So if you don't have something like that going on, you have no idea how invaluable it is.
Nell,
yes?
You're willing to share some information then other people.
I'm sorry.
Important to- We're not all going to serve on you do that by having a that you can share with the next person who takes your position. So that's why that's important.
So
Thank
Anel,
you, Anel.
if you will make that available and it worked, so it's something that works for you, that'll put us way ahead in considering what all needs to go into a new notebook.
Okay.
All right, that's it. So do we have a motion to adjourn? Anel moves that we adjourn. Is there a second? I think
Second.
adjournment doesn't need a second. So those in favor, aye, or such.
Aye.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye and good luck. Stay safe and well and happy. This is,
Yes.
you have just done yeoman's work and continue to do it. You're just a light to the whole community. So I applaud all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
President Ann.
Okay.
Enjoy Colorado, honey.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
May the air be clear.
So far, so good.
Okay, thanks, Anel. Thanks again. for
Adios, y'all. Thank you.
Welcome.
Sally, thanks again. And Julie and Debbie and Linda. Everyone brought so much. Okay,
And there we
over
go.
and out.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
and
Good
again,
night.
thanks so much. Bye-bye.